to talk about affordability. After the election, most of the analysts and commentators were saying it was about affordability. Mondami was right. It's about affordability. Our polls show it's right. It's about affordability. And I contend it's about a lot more than affordability. That may be an issue, no question, but it's a lot more. Demographics, immigration, get out the vote campaigns, the quality of the candidates. But I want to take you through a couple of states here. Affordability. Because it's amazing to me that blue state governors and mayors are able to talk about affordability. It's amazing to me that the national Democrats in Congress are now talking about affordability, and that the Republicans are failing on this front. How are we failing? By talking about it? No, we're not talking about what's going on in red states versus blue states. That red states are far more affordable to everybody in the red state than the blue states, particularly for young people, because you're about to find out that young people, by number, more of them live in red states than blue states. So I'm going to go through this. I think you're going to find it very interesting, but I'm hoping Republicans, whether they're elected or unelected leaders, will pay attention to this and understand how to explain it, because what you're listening to are the media and the media spin on the East Coast and the West Coast, and you're missing the real story, which is if the battle is over affordability, you should be cleaning their clocks. Let's take a look. I decided to pick a few states. Let's look at Florida versus New York. Does that sound like a good idea? Florida has about 4 million more people, and their state budget is half the size of New York's. Is Florida more affordable than New York in most instances? You better believe it. First of all, they don't have an income tax.
Good point.
New York has never met a tax it didn't like. They tax things that are alive, dead, moving, not moving. They don't care. So this information is from My Life Elsewhere, and they've gathered an enormous amount of information.
Let's listen to Mark Levin's political playbook on how he feels that Republicans should tackle affordability. Because honestly, he's actually making a pretty good point. Like, he's making a good point. If he does bring up the fact that, well, if it's more affordable in red states than blue states, then who's better on affordability? And if we can make that distinction and we always put it in their face, like, well, yeah, if you're in a blue state and you're talking about affordability, okay, that's your problem. You're in a blue state. If we can find that, if we can differentiate on that, and we can make a argument on that alone, then yes, that's the way Republicans can win affordability, instead of the Dems argument of meshing it all together, making it seem like all states are having this affordability problem, that no states are seeing price reduction, when, well, that's just not the reality of it.
And I want to share it to you. New York versus Florida. The cost of living is 16.5% for the average person more in New York than Florida.
Okay, let's get right into it. Transportation in New York. Well, because New York transportation is in heavy use and in heavy demand, I'm gonna be real with you, it's gonna be a little bit more expensive than in Florida. Clothing. There's so much clothing in New York. It should actually be lower than it is in Florida. That's actually pretty surprising that clothing is more expensive in New York, considering how much of clothing and the supply of clothing that's out there. It's absolutely insane. Groceries being more expensive in New York, that absolutely makes sense. Childcare being more expensive in New York, yeah, that makes sense. And here's the thing: you're paying like way more for childcare, for the worst childcare in the world. And you're talking about, I used to be in New York childcare, and let me tell you something: they hit us. Yes, so you was paying high childcare, your kids was getting their ass whooped behind your back. So trust me, and it's probably still happening. I've heard stories. So trust me, childcare, the fact that it's 6% more expensive for the shittiest childcare in the world, which is in New York, is absolutely amazing. But it is what it is. Housing going up. Yeah, housing is going to be less expensive than in New York because everybody's trying to rush to Florida. And then restaurants is less expensive in New York. All right, that's a surprise. I'm going to be rich. I'm a little surprised by that one.
That is a lot of money. 8.7% more in New York for groceries than in Florida. 22.9% more for transportation in New York than Florida. How about childcare? 60% more for childcare in New York than Florida. Clothing, 2.6% more for clothing in New York than Florida. How about New Jersey? I'm picking these 3 states where they just had elections, blue states effectively. The overall cost of living in New Jersey is 24.8% higher than in Florida.
Damn. What? New Jersey is 24% more expensive than Florida, 29% more expensive. Jesus. In transportation, more expensive in New Jersey. 18 clothing is 18% more expensive in New Jersey. Childcare 78% more expensive, like New Jersey. What are y'all doing out there? Yo, if you're in New Jersey, I don't want to hear nothing about affordability. Like, actually, I need to call Big Wave Dave and tell him I feel bad for him. But if anything, I don't want to hear nothing about affordability when it comes to New Jersey. Y'all just need to shut the F up and choose better.
What are we talking about? Restaurants, 0.7%, so about even when it comes to restaurants. How about groceries? Food, 16.9% more in New Jersey. How about transportation? 29.6% more for transportation in New Jersey. Housing,
Was it more?
2.7% more in New Jersey than Florida. Childcare, 78.7% more in New Jersey than Florida. Clothing, 18.9% more for clothing in New Jersey than Florida.
Good point.
Affordability, anybody? I'm not done. Let's compare Florida.
I mean, no, Cap Hunter, that actually is a good point. Like Fifth Ave is in New York, and we're talking about Fifth Ave, like where all the expensive clothing stores are at. So that's actually a good point.
And Virginia, 13.9% overall cost of living higher in Virginia than Florida. And remember, Florida is no
Wow.
income tax either. I'm not even including that.
Wow. So when you compare this red state of Florida to Virginia, New Jersey, New York, it's more affordable to live in Florida. Like, just period, point blank, more affordable to live in Florida. I mean, especially when it comes to childcare, because 65% more expensive in Florida. Clothing, of course, clothing is going to be more expensive. And here's the transportation. Well, at least it's not as bad as New York City and New Jersey. I'll just say that. Well, it does seem like out of all 3 of the comparisons, Virginia would be the cheapest place to stay, but all of them is more expensive to live in than Florida.
Talking about goods and services here. All right, restaurants. It's 0.4% more for restaurants in Virginia than Florida, so that's even. What else? 13% more for groceries in Virginia than Florida. 8.1% more for transportation in Virginia than Florida. Now, for housing, it's 7.3% less in Virginia than Florida. You got a boom going on in Florida, but just laying it out. What about childcare? 65.7% more for childcare in Virginia than Florida. What about clothing? 5% more in Virginia than Florida. And I said, let's throw in California. After all, Newsom wants to be president of the United States. How are they doing over there? Let's take a look. Florida versus California. 21.8%. The cost of living is higher in California for the same goods.
All right, come on now. Like Mark Levin, you ain't had to do that. We all knew that California was just going to be exponentially more expensive than Florida. We all knew that. You don't even need to do Florida like this. We bash on Florida enough, okay? We don't got to do Florida like this. We all know Florida's like literally one of the most expensive places to live. But God damn it, that weather's good.
You're paying 21.8% more than in Florida. 6.2% more for restaurants in California than Florida, 9.2% more for groceries in California than Florida, 20.6% more for transportation in California than in Florida, 16% more for housing in California than in Florida, a whopping 65.5% more for childcare in California than in Florida, 5.7% more for clothing. Very expensive state. Very. Affordability, anybody? Republicans. As I went through this data, and I can't share it all in the time that I have, virtually every Republican state, virtually every one, the costs are lower than virtually every day.
Hey, and shout out to my man Daniel Castro for sending the high five for 100 joules. Appreciate the support, my brother.
Democrat state. So affordability, if that's the main issue, then use it. I'm not done. Let's take a look at Texas, another big Republican state versus New York. Overall cost of living is higher in New York by 17.9%.
Wait, what?
2.6% more for restaurants
Even in
in
Texas?
New York than Texas.
I mean, okay, Texas and clothing. I mean, all right, that's not a surprise. But what? Even Texas? Of course, of course. So, guys, when we talk about affordability and we compare this to blue state to red states, well, the numbers show that red states don't have an affordability problem. It's the blue states. And I'm not going to say all blue states across the board because he's bringing up like the most expensive blue states, to be quite honest with you. So he is cherry picking a bit. So I would hope that we can actually, you know what, I might have to do a little bit of research my damn self at this point. I might have to go ahead and do the research because we need to take a less notable like blue state and start comparing it to less notable red states. And I think we can get some real numbers on that one instead of taking the most popular ones and comparing them. Just to be fair, just to make sure we get the accurate saying on this before I just jump out and say, hey, across the board, red states are less expensive.
23.7% more for groceries in New York than in Texas.
Hey, and shout out my man Castro for the clutch and the happy poo for 40 jewels altogether. Appreciate the support, guys. Remember, for every 100 jewels, that is $1.
Texas, 20.3% more for transportation in New York than in Texas. 12.8% more for housing.
Hey, yo, if you're living in New York, you might want to go to Texas or Florida because you're going to see a 23.7% reduction in groceries. 23. So if you're hearing this from New York right now, you can be saved. You don't have to watch it transform into commie town. 23%. 23.7% less you'd be paying in groceries. Just come on down.
In New York than in Texas, 37.8% more for childcare in New York.
I like that.
Than in Texas, 2.9% less for clothing. You're going to see this through a number of states. I guess it's because New York is a clothing capital, but it's very close. How about New Jersey and Texas? Oh, don't get me started. 26.3% cost of living in New Jersey is higher than in Texas.
Man, yeah, maybe we should have. Yeah, I'm be honest with you. I don't like Mark Levin. The man is low-key evil when it comes to geopolitical talks and how he feels about, you know, Hamas or the Palestinians altogether. Yeah, I don't like the way he talks. But I'm be honest with you, God damn it, the man would make a great campaign manager. Because if they would have had these arguments, this argument right here, and put it out in front of their people and be like, look, this is what you guys are getting with Democrat leadership. Higher prices across the board, more spending across the board, less affordability across the board. And here we are with the Republicans. As you see in different Republican states, there's more affordable. So this is what you can do. You can keep on voting Democrat and watch things get less affordable, or you can vote Republicans and you can join the gang. Choose your side wisely.
7.2% more for restaurants in New Jersey than Texas. 33% more for groceries in New Jersey than in Texas. I mean, this is typical. I'm just telling you, this is what we're going through here. 26.5% more for transportation in New Jersey than in Texas. 23.5% more for housing in New Jersey than in Texas. What else? 53.5% more for childcare in New Jersey than Texas. And the beat goes on. 13.4% more for clothing in New Jersey than 53? Texas. What about Virginia and Texas? Okay, 15.9% overall cost of living is higher. 9.1% more for restaurants. 28.6% more for groceries in Virginia than Texas. 6.7% more for transportation.
God damn it. I'll be damned, but I think Mark Levin just cooked the Dems on this entire point. Like, I mean, he damn near just gave everybody their talking point right now. Now everybody's going to go to this and be like, no, affordability is actually y'all problem. The Democrat states, Dem cities, you guys are the problem when it comes to affordability, not the Republicans. And yeah, maybe if the Republicans actually understood this, for some reason they didn't make this obvious comparison, but it is what it is, guys. It is what it is, because this would have been a really nice argument to make. And if Mark Levin maybe would have came out with this video, I don't know, a month ago, we might have had a chance there. Maybe not, though, because I ain't gonna lie. The Democrats spend pretty good time rallying their base. Maybe not.
In Virginia than Texas, 8.5% more for housing, 44.3% more for childcare, 0.2% more for clothing in Virginia than Texas. What about Texas and California? The cost of living overall in California is 24.5% higher in California than Texas.
Jesus.
I find this unbelievable that Republicans are allowing the Democrats, the Marxists, the socialists to run away on this affordability issue. Hopefully, this is a wake-up call. 13.1% more for restaurants in California than Texas, 24.4% more for groceries in California than Texas, 19.6% more for transportation in California, 38.3% more for housing, 44.8% more for childcare in California than Texas, 0.8% more for clothing. That's a wash. You can see where you choose to live makes a huge difference
Cooked.
on affordability. Let's pick a couple more here. What do you say? Let's do Tennessee.
I mean, no, that is true. And the Dems' argument is that they play like it's across the board. And then when the Democrats talk to us in red states like myself, they're in disbelief when I hit them with the, gas prices down over here. It actually went down like to the 2 area. They're in disbelief. When I tell these guys, my groceries actually gotten less expensive, they're in disbelief. Because the way the Dems have been framing is that everybody's going through the same affordability. Everybody's damn near paying the same, or at least close to the same. When no, there's a 20 to 30% difference in what we pay, depending on what state you're in. That's ridiculous.
A volunteer state, another no tax state. So Florida, no income tax, Texas, no income tax, Tennessee, no income tax. Don't worry. I'll pick one where there's an income tax, Ohio, in a minute. But let's just pick Tennessee. Overall versus New York, the cost of living in New York is 19.4% higher. Now, Florida.
All right, this is a bit more of a fair comparison, I guess, to a less known Republican city. Tennessee is actually still pretty up there. Well, red state, still pretty up there. Restaurants, less expensive in New York. All right, groceries up 15%. I mean, like I said, it's like you go to almost any red state and you're going to be paying at least like 10 to 30% less in groceries. Transportation, I mean, you're going to be paying like at least 22 to 42% less in like transportation and housing. I mean, let's be real, you're always going to be saving a little bit more in housing, unless you're going to Florida. Childcare in New York has always been outrageous, even when I used to live there in like in the late 90s and the early 2000s. It was always bullshit. It was always expensive for the most BS childcare in the world.
Texas, Tennessee are seeing booms. Incoming populations that affect the housing and prices, and yet the prices are still below New York.
Actually, I mean, a bit of a personal moment, but due to the child care that I was getting out there in New York, man, I had an irrational fear of Asians for like a good part of my childhood. Wild, but won't get too deep into those stories.
Now, Florida, Texas, Tennessee are seeing booms. Incoming populations that affect the housing and prices, and yet the prices are still below New York, below New Jersey, below Virginia, below California. All right, let's talk about restaurants. 0.2% less in Tennessee, so that's a wash. 15.5% more for groceries in New York versus Tennessee. 42.2% more for transportation in New York than Tennessee. 8.2% more for housing. 43% more for child care in New York than Tennessee. 6.2% less for clothing in New York. Again, I think that's because New York is such a clothing hub, but it doesn't matter.
Here's the thing too. There's also been more jobs created or I would say more low wage to medium wage to middle class jobs in red states as well. I mean, they have less regulations. Factories find it easier to build in these red states. So it does seem like the red states are going to take over the blue ones. Like the red states are going to honestly start being the financial capitals of the United States if the blue states don't get themselves together. Like New York could be replaced as the financial capital. I mean, and California, they could lose their spot as a top earning state if they do not change their ways. Like, don't get too comfortable in your position.
The overall expense in New York, cost of living, is almost 20% higher than Tennessee. Tennessee, which is booming. How about Tennessee and New Jersey? Overall cost of living, 28.1% higher in New Jersey than Tennessee. 4.2% more for restaurants in New Jersey, 24.5% more for groceries in New Jersey, 52.2% more for transportation in New Jersey.
It's like, bro, I had the perfect campaign slogan. I'd have just said, vote Republican, come with low prices. Republican, come with low prices. That's all. That would have been my whole campaign slogan. I'd have just had nothing but this. Just flicking through this through a PowerPoint, just grilling the hell out of the Democrat opponent that can't handle affordability for some reason. Like, that's all they had to do, to be quite honest. And it's kind of funny because Mark Levin, little does he know, he's kind of making the Republican Party look like dumbasses for not making this point on their own. And even I was thinking this too. I was like, bro, if you compare the blue states to the red states, there's obvious difference in affordability, but I didn't know it was this great. I didn't think it was much of a discrepancy to actually bring up. I thought we was in like a 5, at worst 8% margin in difference of what we pay. I didn't think we were going to be in the 20s and 40s. I'll be quite honest with you.
18.5% more for housing in New Jersey than Tennessee, 59.7% more for childcare, 8.5% more for clothing in New Jersey than Tennessee. Wow. That's why people are moving to these.
And if we're talking about transportation, like, what do you think that is, guys? That's gas. We're not just talking about your bus fares and all that wild stuff. Like, that means their gas is also going to be way more expensive.
For clothing in New Jersey than Tennessee. Wow. That's why people are moving to these red states.
Getting screwed over.
How about Virginia and Tennessee? 16.2% more expensive cost of living in Virginia than Tennessee. 4% more for restaurants. Let's look here. 20.4% more groceries in Virginia than in Tennessee.
So across the board is looking like there's always a 20% increase in how much you're going to spend in groceries. That is insane. No, that's insane. Like, it is bad out if that's the case here. Well, man, hold on. What's the next one he's going to go to? California versus Tennessee. Yeah, see, it's always going to be like, okay, cool. It's not as bad. Like a 16% difference in California and Tennessee. When it comes to transportation, 35%, childcare, 47%, housing. Jesus Christ, 32. Well, all right, that makes sense. But goddamn. All right, well, how much did he do? Like, I'm honestly, like, did he ever let up on him? California, all right.
California's 24.5% cost of living higher than Tennessee. 9.9% more for restaurants. 32.1% more for housing. 47.3. Is this boring? No. This is unbelievable that Republicans aren't using this. You got a Marxist in New York City where the costs are through the roof, where everything's gone up since Giuliani's gone and Bloomberg's gone. It's crazy. And he's running on affordability when the Democrats did it. In New Jersey, the Democrats won re-election where they're the ones who drove up the property taxes and the electricity bills and the food bills.
Yep.
We have to learn how to speak and make the case and market conservative.
Literally, like, they was able to run on affordability, something that they made worse, something that they've had like a good amount of handle, and they've not done anything about it, but they ran on it like it was the Republicans' problem, and the Republican let them do it. Didn't make no counter argument against it. I mean, god damn it, bro. You know you're effing up when Mark Levin got to give you a political talking point. Like, you know you're effing up when you couldn't come up with that argument yourself. And any conservative could easily ran this number. Any Republican candidate could easily ran these numbers and destroyed a Democrat opponent on affordability. But they didn't. I wonder why. Probably too focused on support for Israel.
Property rights and capitalism. Not the gloom and doom welfare states of these blue states, and now a pink city, that would be New York City. Let's go on. 32.1% more for housing in California than Tennessee. 47.3% more for childcare. 3.2% less for clothing. It's a big gap, though, overall. One more state. Let's pick Ohio. They've got real cities in Ohio. They have them in Texas. They have them in Florida.
Yes, we do.
Let's pick some.
Hey, shout out Ohio. Let's go. And if you don't know, I am from Ohio, Columbus. But I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, though. So, yes, I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, but I spent most of my life in Ohio and a good amount of time in New York City. So I've lived in Tennessee, New York, Ohio. So shout out to Ohio. But all right, now as we're looking at it, restaurants more expensive and I mean, yeah, but here's the thing though. I mean, bro, if you come to Columbus, we're like the fast food capital for some strange reason, which is not honestly a good thing in my opinion. But hey, everybody like the food around here. Groceries, 26.5% more expensive. I did tell you, it's like, bro, when you talk to me about the price of groceries, like I said, maybe I'm just living in a different world. Obviously, I'm living in a different world than you guys if you're living in the blue state, because I'm seeing it 26% different than what you're seeing in the store. When I go to Kroger's, like, I'm seeing something way different than when you go to Publix. Okay. Just like in gas. Wow, when I go to the gas station, I'm seeing a price way lower than what you're going to see at the gas station. It is what it is. Child care. When I take, okay, I don't got no kids, but if I did have kids, if I took them to daycare, I'm gonna get a way cheaper rate than what you're gonna get for your badass kids. Okay.
Cost of living, New York is 25.7% higher cost of living than Ohio. 13% more for restaurants. 26.5% more for groceries. That's a lot. 10.9% more for transportation. 36% more for housing. 43.2% more for childcare in New York than in Ohio. What about Ohio versus New Jersey? Again, I'm picking those three states plus California that were just up in Tuesday.
Nah, he picked Ohio because we do got good affordability. I'm not even gonna lie. Actually, I think Ohio, I think even Vivek was priding himself on Ohio's ability to maintain affordability. So it is what it is. That's why he's kind of bringing Ohio up. And, you know, we're kind of like that. I don't know. Ohio's weird. What really makes us famous is sports and not too much else, and maybe farming a little bit. But other than that, it's sports. If you don't talk about sports, then you don't really know too much about Ohio.
It's affordability. That's the question. Okay, so why aren't we winning on affordability? The candidates, the messaging, plus it's more than just affordability. Wow, Ohio versus New Jersey overall, 35.1%. The cost of living is higher in New Jersey than Ohio. Restaurants, again, 18% more in New Jersey. 36% more on groceries in New Jersey. 36% more than Ohio. 15.6% more on transportation in New Jersey than Ohio. Let's keep going.
Yeah, so guys, when a liberal says groceries aren't down, ask them what state they're in. If they say New Jersey, just tell them to shut the F up. Just be like, bro, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to sound like a dick, but just shut the F up. I'm sorry, bro. It's just not our problem. That's not our problem. That's nothing we can fix for you. Your choice in voting got that for you. Deal with it. Because a 36% different, of course you're bitching. Of course you're crying about it. Rightfully so. You're complaining about the fact that you got to pay 36% more in groceries than me in Ohio. Yes, I would be bitching too. You're damn right. You should stay that way. Like, keep complaining until your local leadership fixes it.
How about 51.5% housing more expensive in New Jersey than Ohio? 59.5% more expensive childcare in New Jersey than in Ohio. 28.9% more for clothing in New Jersey than Ohio. And then we have Ohio versus Virginia. 23.3% overall. Virginia cost of living is higher. 17.8% for restaurants. 30.5% for groceries. 2.1% for transportation. 30.4% more for housing in Virginia than Ohio. 50% more for childcare in Virginia, 13.8% more for clothing. And then finally, Ohio versus California. Overall, 34% higher cost of living in California than Ohio. 24.5% on restaurants, 27.9% on groceries, 11.9% on transportation, 67.5% on housing, 50.7% on childcare, 14.5% on clothing. All right, by now, the last 10 minutes, you get the point. But every state goes this way. It's just incredible. Now, what about the youth? Are they doing better in Democrat states or Republican states? This one's going to, I think, shock you. Here we are. Where are most young adults living with their parents? Number one, Hawaii, Democrat. Number two, California, Democrat. Number three, New Jersey, Democrat. Number four, New York.
If you're wondering where he got this information from, if you didn't see at the bottom of the line, it says mylifeelsewhere.com. You can go ahead and visit this website right here. So this is what I walked into when I first went on to here. Now, if you do a little bit of, cost of living right here, just do a little bit of digging. You can compare states. And then you can go ahead and choose your state right here. I mean, just for the hell of it, Alabama. Let's compare it to Colorado. Compare. And there you go. Right, this is where you get your numbers from right here. Simple as day. I mean, let's see here in restaurants, and we're comparing Colorado versus Alabama cost of living summary. You pay 51% more in Colorado. You pay 22% more in Colorado when it comes to transportation. You pay 27, god damn, 0.1% in clothing more in Colorado. So Colorado is obviously more expensive than Alabama. This is a blue state compared to a red state. I mean, you could run this all day, guys. You could run it all day and have fun with it. I mean, why not? Across the board, though, Alabama is less expensive than Colorado. But I mean, if you want to be fair, let's try to compare it to, I guess, hey, let's try to Connecticut. Somebody says they're from Connecticut. Let's compare Connecticut to Alabama. Alabama is, well, you're going to pay less in Alabama for pretty much everything across the board. I mean, so whoever said they're living in Connecticut, hey, man, if you might get your country accent on, you might be able to move to Alabama. But yes, when you switch it around, which is kind of cool, it does show you right here. Restaurants, you pay 26 more in Connecticut. Groceries, you pay 26 more in Connecticut than the Southern homies down south. I mean, this is a pretty cool site. Love it. But this is where he got it from. MyLifeElsewhere.com. I mean, all right, this is pretty fun. I'm going to keep this up. I'm going to have to play with this. I have to be a bit of a kid. I'm going to lie. I'm about to be childish.
Democrat. Number 5, New Hampshire. Democrat. The lowest percentage of young adults living with their parents. Number 1, North Dakota, Republican. Number 2, South Dakota, Republican. Number 3, Iowa, Republican. Number 4, Nebraska, Republican. Number 5, Kansas, Republican. These are healthy states. States with the most children living at home. That is the number of children living at home, not just households with children living at home.
Let's see here.
New Jersey, the highest. Connecticut and Democrat. Connecticut 2nd, Democrat. California 3rd, Democrat. Maryland 4th, Democrat. New Hampshire 5th, Democrat. Delaware.
Damn. So this is where the disgruntled youth is coming. Stay with the highest percentage of children living at home, aka we're talking about like what, you're 18 years old, maybe to like 22.
Maryland 4th.
Because I mean, come on now, we're just gonna count all the way out to 16 or 15 and below. Like, well, no shit. I would hope they're living at their parents.
Democrat. New Hampshire 5th, Democrat. Delaware 6th, Democrat. New York 7th, Democrat. Hawaii 8th, Democrat. Mississippi 9th, Republican.
Oh, guys, if you want me to go ahead and compare some 2 states, let me know on affordability. Well, let's have some fun with it. We can go ahead and make those comparisons. I know somebody said they wanted to see Pennsylvania's, well, give me the 2nd state. We can go ahead and compare the affordability. I got y'all. This is a pretty fun tool they got here. So shout out to mylifeelsewhere.com. That's where you can find this pretty neat tool. All right, back to it.
Florida, 10th, Republican. What about the median age? Where's the youngest population, the youngest demographic? What states? Where are they? You ready for this one? The youngest population. Number 1, Utah. Number 2, DC. Number 3, Texas. Number 4, Alaska. Number 5, North Dakota. Number 6, Nebraska. Number 7, Oklahoma. Number 8, Idaho. Number 9, California. Number 10, Kansas. In other words, 8 of the top 10 states with the youngest population, the most youth, are Republican. Republican. Most of the affordable states are Republican. Republican. What about the oldest states? Maine, Democrat. New Hampshire, Democrat.
Well, let's be honest. Republicans are conservatives, promote family, promote having kids, while Dems, well, I mean, I can't say that they don't promote family, but they definitely promote the killing of your kids, and they do promote, well, feminism that leads to the high divorce rates. That also doesn't do well for kids. So yeah, I mean, this is why y'all guys have the oldest medium age. For some reason, I guess your lifestyle doesn't really equal out to, I guess, a positive growth when it comes to kids. Actually, it leads out to a negative growth, due to this whole abortion thing y'all got going on. And it's not really about abortion. It's about the limits on abortion that y'all have. Not really limits, but the freedom of abortion that you guys have, especially out on how long somebody can, last it out until they're able to get an abortion.
Vermont, Bernie. Democrat,
until they
West
do.
Virginia. Republican, Florida, Republican. Delaware, Democrat. Connecticut, Democrat. Pennsylvania, mostly Democrat, but not exclusively. Rhode Island, Democrat. New Jersey, Democrat. The vast majority of the states with the oldest population are Democrat. So I thought I'd go through these numbers for you because I think they're fascinating. Where are most young people living at home? Almost exclusively Democrat states. Almost, not completely, but the largest number of young people living in homes.
And I already did this comparison for Steph. She said, go ahead and compare Pennsylvania to New York. And if you look at Pennsylvania compared to New York, in restaurants, you pay 6.4% more in New York. Groceries, that's a slight difference, actually. You'll pay about 4.3 more in New York in groceries. Transportation, about 16% more in New York. Housing, of course, 14% more. Entertainment and sports, you're going to be paying about 25% more in New York. And childcare, 13% more. So New York is 11.9% more expensive than Pennsylvania. Hey, if anybody, if you want to compare more states, let me know. That's fun.
Living in home, almost, not completely, but the largest number of young people living in homes, at home with parents, Democrat. And the number of homes with the most youth living in them, Democrat. The most expensive states combined, compared to Republican states, even big Republican states, Democrat. So you have the youth, Republican states, more affordability, Republican states, lower taxes, Republican states. Now, the pollsters come out and they do these nationwide reviews. Young people are upset. Young people can't afford things. So we talk about theory.
Yeah, when they do the nationwide reviews and they're mainly going to these blue states, yeah, of course the youth is going to be mad because they're in these blue states that are doing absolutely terrible when it comes to affordability. Then they're framing it as if it's every youth that's suffering from this when the youth in the red states are actually doing pretty good. Okay, not pretty good, but they're paying less than their counterparts in the blue states. So the youth in the red states are paying way less across the board than their counterparts in blue states. So of course the kids in the blue states or the youth in the blue states is speaking out again about affordability because for some reason their leadership hasn't tackled it.
We talk about ideology. We talk in generalities.
Alaska, California.
I'm breaking it down, and we could do this for hours, but I do want to keep my audience, you, state by state by state, with even the big Republican states, with big cities, and hands down, the Republicans have the message on affordability.
I mean, yeah, we have the policy. It's crazy how we didn't just implement a message out of that. But all right, though, let's do Alaska and California. All right, so excellent. This one's pretty mixed. So let's see, restaurants, you pay 9.1% less. And this is, so California is 17.4% more expensive than Alaska, of course. So you pay 9.1 less in California. You pay 10% less in California when it comes to groceries, which is a major surprise. In transport, you pay 18% more in California. In housing, you pay 15% more in California. In childcare, you pay 2.2 times more. Damn, they couldn't even put that in their percentage. That's how expensive childcare is compared to Alaska and California. They couldn't even put it in a percentage. It's like, bro, no, you're going to pay 2.2% times, not 2.2%, 2.2 times more in California. They couldn't even put that in percentage for us. But entertainment and sports, you'll pay like 5.1% less in California. And in clothing, you'll pay less in clothing in California. So, it's not that bad, but California is still pretty expensive. Still pretty damn.